and adore, even to this day, I love and adore my parents, right? They
Yeah.
did the best that they could with what they had, right? And I understand addiction and how that takes over your life and rules you.
Yeah.
Like, you are a servant to it. I get that now. But when I was that little, I was like, what is going,
Yeah.
So that's probably the earliest traumatic memory that I have, where I kind of can identify that my parents were sick,
Got it.
in an addiction that they couldn't control.
So, what were they using at the time?
Methamphetamine.
Methamphetamine.
Well,
Okay.
then it was probably crank,
Yeah. Okay.
know.
And did you see them at all ever use?
No.
Never. Okay. So they kept it hidden from you. That's
Never,
good.
never, never,
Right.
never,
At
never.
least that's good.
That's part of the bitterness of it, right?
Yeah.
But like, the sweetness is, there was family events, family part. Again, I'm telling you, like, so my dad had five sisters,
Okay.
4 or 5. Anyways, he had a bunch of sisters, and they all had kids, right? And they're all pretty much in my age bracket. There are some that are like a bit older than me, like their age, but like the mass majority, there was like 9 of us,
Okay.
9 or 10 of us, where we're all the same age, and so there was always family. I always had cousins, right?
Yeah.
And most of them are males. So I think I had one female cousin, first cousin, right? One female first cousin that I hung out with, but like 8 or 9 of them are all males. And we're all in the same age.
Okay.
Range, and so I was tomboyish as well, growing up. But yeah, I remember, like, I had a lot of family, right? And then my dad, my grandparents had sisters or brothers that had kids. So I guess that would be my parents' or my dad's first cousins. They had kids and they all lived around the neighborhood. So we were kind of, so that was like one of the sweet things is I had a lot of family.
So were any of the other family members in addiction also, or is it just your parents at that time?
That would be their story to tell.
Yeah. The
But
reason
I
why
would
I
say
ask
I
is
would
because
say yes.
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
not probably at the degree. I mean, I can only tell my story. I didn't live in that household,
Got it.
so I don't really know. Of course, all my aunts and uncles, they partied, right?
Yeah.
Who doesn't in the late 80s?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Before it was like a mass epidemic,
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say a lot of my family members and I'm talking my aunts and uncles, as far as like becoming full in the position I was in where I followed those footsteps. Most of my cousins, my first cousin that I grew up with, they dibbled and dabbled, but I took it to the next level.
Okay.
You know.
And so, what school did you go to growing up? Like what elementary school?
I went to Southgate Elementary. That was on Calaroga. I went to Dr. Martin Luther King Middle School,
Okay.
which was formerly known as Calaroga.
Yeah.
And then I went to, here we go. This is where it begins. I went to Mount Eden High School, was kicked out, and then went to American High School in Fremont because my grandma lived in Cabrillo Park.
Okay.
Got kicked out of there and then came back to Hayward and then went to Brankwitz continuation in Hayward. I think I was pregnant, had my son, dropped out. And then I eventually went back to Sunset Adult School.
Okay.
So I was at Brankwitz and Sunset Adult School all over there in the A Street, North Hayward area. Princeton. I think it's on Princeton.
Yeah.
And then started my career of being incarcerated and all that. And so I ended up getting my GED and high school diploma in Santa Rita.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. How old were you at that time that you got that?
I just applied for college courses in Stockton, so I had to give them my GED. It was in 2006.
Okay.
That's what my GED certificate says.
And you would have graduated in what year?
01.
01. Okay.
01. Had I had
So 5 years
took
later,
the easy
you got
route.
it.
But I like to make things complicated.
Yeah, don't we all?
Right? I'm an overachiever.
That sounds like everybody. I know. So the point where you noticed things started changing for you, where did that begin?
What do you,
So like
I
when
would
you
say 5th or 6th grade.
fifth or sixth grade, you were introduced to drugs or alcohol or gangs?
So I was first introduced into the gang or the camaraderie.
Got it.
The solid camaraderie of what gangs look like, that and I would say as far back as fourth or fifth grade, me and my girlfriends, my best friend, me and one of my best friends, watched that movie Mi Vida Loca.
Got it.
Right. And we were like, oh yeah, homegirl.
Yeah.
But then that movie portrayed down in LA, which was like, no, right? Because I'm from up north, right? I'm from Northern California. So, but that's kind of like where, I was fascinated, like how they were down and they, and they fought. And I don't know. I was just, I guess I was infatuated with that. Not necessarily. I mean, it was infatuating and then it was hysterical, right? Because I was like, look at these girls, hey, homegirl. Like, we clowning on them and stuff. And so I guess that kind of like cracked open the door. By then, my cousins, right? I'm probably the youngest. They're all in middle school now and going into high school.
Okay.
And they're getting associated and affiliated with, these gangs, these cliques and stuff like that. And so I'm watching them, right? No matter, as much as an individual or a independent person I am, like I'm always watching my older cousins. Right.
Got it. Do you remember the first time you got in trouble for anything? Was it in school, like suspension or anything? Do you remember?
Ouch. For sure. I was suspended from school. I think I got my first citation.
Okay.
In kindergarten or first grade.
Yeah.
And it was for fighting.
For fighting. Okay.
I was a fighter. For
got
sure.
It.
That was like my bread and butter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a fighter. I want to say kindergarten or first grade.
Okay.
Multiple citations up until then. I think I was suspended for the first time in fourth or fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth, like and it was predominantly fighting.
Yeah.
Physical.
So it's interesting to hear that because there's always that dynamic. If your parents were dealing with addiction at that time, you were young, you were fighting in school and doing that. Were you getting disciplined for doing those things at home, or were they kind of like just you were left to your own devices?
My dad was a fighter growing up. So it was like you come home beat up, you're going to get your ass beat again.
Got it. Okay.
My dad had taught me a hard line, like, if you knock them out or you beat them up, you don't fucking stop. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make Pops proud.
Got it.
Okay. My dad was a fighter. He was wired that way.
Okay.
My dad had that...
like a trained fighter or...
He did wrestling. Yeah. Okay. I know in wrestling, he achieved a lot of awards wrestling.
Okay.
And my dad had hands. He could fight. My dad was kind of like me, petite, little, right? Hot-tempered, and knew how to fight. Fearless in it.
Got it.
If you will.
Okay.
Right? That goes for myself. Like me growing up, I fought. I learned at an early age that I'm pretty good at it. And even if I wasn't good at it, I didn't give a shit. Yeah. Like, when I'm fighting, it ain't about like, oh, they're going to beat me up or I don't care if I'm winning. We're fighting.
Got it.
You've disrespected me. I don't even know if I can get that line out of my mouth before I took off. Like that's where I was wired that way, where it didn't matter to me if I was fighting. I don't care. We're fighting.
So that was like
this is how it's going down.
That was the theme of your life then, moving forward.
Oh, we're squabbing, we're fighting.
Okay, makes sense.
And the whole losing and that can care less.
Got it. Got it. What's your guys' background? Your family's background?
My father is Filipino, Portuguese, Hawaiian.
Okay.
He was born in Honolulu. My grandparents were born in Hawaii. All of my cousins and aunts, a lot of them were born in Hawaii, if not in Hayward.
Okay.
Because they came to California in Hayward. And so I think one of my dad's baby sister was born in Hayward. Or maybe she was born in Honolulu too. Anyways, they were born in Hawaii. But they grew up in Longwood Park. Longwood area. Okay. So they were like from A Street, right? my dad and his siblings, they didn't gangbang A Street, but they were well associated with all the people that were from A Street,
Okay.
you know, but that wasn't really their,
Okay.
you know, because they come from that Hawaiian,
So they kinda
Polynesian background where it's like family,
Got it.
tight
Yeah. I
knitted.
was gonna say.
But they were well associated with, because I remember growing up when I started hanging out more and more with, you know, people from, you know, in North Hayward or hanging out, you know, my dad knew all the parents.
Got
you
it.
know?
Okay.
And they were real respected, but it was never like my dad's a gang member from
Yeah.
A Street. No. But he knew all the parents and they were real cool, you know.
Yeah. So it was mostly the people they hung around with were all Northern Hispanic.
Oh,
then?
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Or African American. I mean, well, I know my dad hanging around with, there were some African Americans from A Street
Okay.
called the Howards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Very
my
familiar.
dad was associated with, my dad was good friends with all them too.
Got it.
But aside from them, yes, nothing but Hispanics.
All right. So I know you said you got your GED later. So how
Mm-hmm.
far did you make it in high school?
I had my oldest son when I was 16, just turned 16.
Okay.
So I guess I went to high school up until I was a sophomore.
Sophomore. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you just left, or you got kicked out, or what happened with that?
I think I just left.
You just left.
I mean, I got kicked out of like freshman. There was a big transition where I got kicked out of Mount Eden for fighting.
Got it.
Went to go stay with my mom, my grandmother, my mom's parents, which lived in Cabrillo Park in Fremont.
Okay.
Went to that American high school, got in a fight, kicked out for fighting,
Yeah.
and then came back to Hayward to my parents. Went to Brankwitz. I think I just stopped going. I don't think no, I got in an altercation. Oh, yes, I just stopped going. I got in an altercation while at Brankwitz, but I wasn't reprimanded for that. I didn't get in trouble.
Yeah.
I didn't
Got
get
it.
caught, I guess.
Okay, so what I do, obviously, I wanted you to talk about your addiction and how that started, and the recovery and everything that goes with it. So I just wanted to know a little bit about you growing up and everything. So where would you say your addiction kind of, I guess that
Where I
that
tried
match-
it or it
yeah.
took off?
I know. I would say where you tried it, and then kind of from there, what happened?
So I remember I was 12. And I remember, I know I had tried weed. I can't even tell you when I tried it or what. It kind of
Okay.
came with the territory of once I got into junior high.
Yeah.
Again, my brother, all my first my cousins, right? I had a lot of male cousins that were couple years older than me. They were already smoking pot. And
Got it.
again, as much as I was an independent contractor,
Yeah.
I was always watching them.
Yeah.
Right. I was always watching them. I was seeing them. And they were already smoking pot. So, and they were smoking cigarettes. And at some point I tried it. I can't tell you. I know I had to have been 11 or 12 when I tried it.
Wow.
I think
Okay.
I may have even tried it before I went to junior high. That's the marijuana and the cigarettes.
Okay.
And I want to say that I'd seen them. Like, they didn't like hide anything from me. I was like one of the guys
Yeah.
on some level.
Okay.
Right. Because I was a tomboy, I played, and that's the other thing too. I was really big into sports, right? I played basketball and I did track and stuff in elementary, junior high, and high school.
Got it.
And so, but the methamphetamines, I remember my brother had him and maybe one of my cousins or two, and plus some of their friends were over, and I had walked in and they were smoking something on foil. And I was like, wow, what's that? I had never seen that. I've seen everything else in my little brain. Like, I'd seen the world already.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Smoking weed, cigarettes, drinking 40s, St. Ides, doing all that.
Yeah.
They were at the liquor store shoulder tapping, like, I had already witnessed all that. And so I wasn't impressed, but I was like, what is that? And they're like, get out, Drea, the fuck out,
Yeah.
And so, I don't know how I knew, but I knew that what they were doing was something that they had gotten out of my mom and dad's secret stash.
Wow.
I can't remember how I know that. And one day I was 12 or 13 and I did it by myself. I got a piece of foil. I got a straw. I remember I got one of these candles and it was like a birthday candle, trick candle,
Yeah.
where you blow it out and it flies back up. and I just like got all the tools for it and then went into my parents' bedroom into their secret stash and grabbed like this little white, creamy. And then like, I don't know. I can't explain how I know. So and I did it by myself. It was a solo act.
Yeah, just seeing them doing it, you figured out what you needed to do it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I went in my room and I think I was 12 or 13, and I knew because when I walked in, they were like had a lighter and I knew that some foil, and so anyways, I took it upon I can't tell you how much longer after I had seen them do it or what, but I went in my room and smoked, and I remember instantly like I guess the euphoria, the everything, like I felt kind of numb. I felt like I felt great.
Wow.
I felt great, invigorating, motivated, ambitious. You know, I was already a really determined child, right? Really go-getter. I was self-motivated outside of, and then like this made it like even more, 100 times more. So yeah, I tried meth for the first time by myself in my bedroom on foil and a candle that would not fucking go out. Or
a trick candle.
I'm like trying to make it go out and it keeps lighting back up. And so I'm
holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow, that's insane. So
and it was by myself.
Yeah.
I was not influenced by like it's
no fear though, like, oh, what's this going to do to me? Nothing was going through your head. You were just curious to see what it was going to do.
Again, like I was telling you earlier, like I was wired that way, like a fearless, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you.
So that was the first time you tried it. Was that something that got you saying, oh, I like this?
Yeah,
and I'm going to continue to do this?
I did it a little bit throughout junior high, 12, 13 years old. I did someone else for, like, every once in a while, but it like hard on, like, dependent on it.
Yeah.
Where, like, I became a slave to it. I didn't probably become a slave to it till I was 17 after I had my son.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was because my son's father started dealing it, and that's when the whole crystal meth thing hit, where it wasn't crank anymore, and then me and my son's father was getting loaded. I remember wanting to stop because I was like, this isn't right, to despise. I disrespected and despised my parents for a long time because they were drug addicts, and it was before I understood what addiction was.
Yeah.
And I hated them my entire life, not entire life, but my entire adolescent, mid-teen life or early adult life, hated them for what they did to me, Yeah. And then, I woke up one day and I was exactly what I hated my whole life.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
It's crazy when I talk to a lot of people that have dealt with addiction, and that's a lot of people's story, right? They've seen their parents do something, they hated that they did it, and they said, I'll never be that person, I'll never do that, and then
boom, you're hating the picture in the mirror.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that happens, and it happens all too often,
Right. Well, because I figured I'll be better at it than them, because my parents were in the house users. They didn't go out and In fact, I want to say their addiction made them more isolated. Wow. As time went on. The family events, me going out with my cousins, me seeing my aunts and uncles and all that kind of depleted as my parents' addiction progressed. I was like, F that. I would be on, when I was getting high, like, I'm still going out. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to be like my parents. I'm going to get high and go out. Yeah. I'm not going to... I mean, that's the rationale, I guess.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. That's the thought process that you're going through. So you're 12, 13 years old, and you're trying this on a regular basis. Are you going to school still at this time? And so you're high in class and dealing with that? I
remember falling asleep in class, and probably because I had been up for a couple days.
Okay.
And I would say that was in 8th grade. So I was like, what, 13?
Yeah.
13 or 14. I had a group of solid friends growing up. Like I had said, my best friend from the apartment. I had two best friends growing up in the apartments, and they were not, I did it in secret. It was my own little secret. Okay. None of my friends knew, right? So I had 2 girlfriends that I grew up with in Lord Tennyson apartments that I was really tight with. And they were, they were like-minded, right? Like I would say like-minded as affiliated in the whole clique gang LTA thing, right? There was just 2 other females aside from myself.
Okay.
And we all grew up together, right?
Okay.
And then I established more friends while I was going to junior high that became like family, right?
Okay. So you said LTA. Explain
Yes.
that a little bit.
So LTA is Lord Tennyson Apartments.
Okay.
It's an apartment, a big, pretty decent sized apartment complex in Hayward.
Okay.
It's, I guess they consider it South Hayward, but on the west side exit. It's across the street from Kaiser. In between Kaiser and St. Rose, in between two hospitals.
Got it.
Right. And there was a lot of us, and I'm talking dozens and dozens of us that grew up there. Since we all known each other since we were yay tall. You know, it wasn't identified as a gang or anything like that growing up. But as we got older, I want to say there was a lot of gang activity going on outside of our apartment complex, right?
Yeah.
There was Palmacia, there was West End, there was DGF, there was Schaefer Park. There was these other gangs and cliques, you know, and so I guess, you know, we had a bright idea. Well, we're just going to be our own, you know?
Okay.
And so that's kind of how that flourished.
Okay.
That's how
And
that
so
grew.
who was it that you guys were beefing with at that time then when you guys got kind of
You know,
your clique
depending
together?
on the year and the season.
Yeah. It
know?
switched up all the time.
Yeah, like there was beef with, you know, and I guess too, us coming up, we're, you know, probably we didn't have the respect by other, you know, gangs, other population that we were, you know, to be respected because no one had ever heard of LTA, right? They just knew about Lord Tennyson Apartments, you know. And so I don't think they're, and again, like I was probably one of the older generations of that. There was people that came up behind me and I know they beefed with DGF but me and my brothers and my cousins, we were cool with them. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, it just, you know, I don't think we really I didn't. Let me rephrase that. I'm a female, right?
Yeah.
And so as a female, I had told you, like, you know, I had a juice card. I can go anywhere in Hayward and it wasn't like big of a problem. And if they did have a problem, I'll fight your homegirls.
Yeah.
What's up? You know, that was my mentality.
Yeah.
But there was always like I mean, we were really good. You know, we were definitely...
The guys weren't really trying to fight with you or beef with you too much. So you kind of had that open, be able to go wherever you wanted. For the guys, they were always trying to fight with
there was
each other.
times where they were beefing with Comparamos, they were beefing with A Street, they were beefing with DGF, they were, you name it, right? There was potential beef going on. South Hayward Hogs, you know, there was all these beefs going on. But you know, and when all that kind of happened, their beef, like I was already like catching cases in prison, going to jail. Like I kind of like, you know what I mean?
So how long were you involved with LTA?
What do you mean? Like I was born and raised there to this day. You know, if someone asked where are you from, I'd be like, I'm from LTA. You know?
Okay,
yeah.
got
like
it.
I don't forget where it come from.
Yeah.
But I definitely ran tough all over the map. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's where I'm from. That's definitely where my upbringing came from. I mean, I lived at apartment 107. Like, there's no hiding behind, you know, like where I come from and stuff.
Yeah. Is it still a pride thing for you? Coming from there? Are you still proud of that? Like, hey, this is where I'm from. I grew up here.
I'm proud of who I am.
Got it.
Right? I'm not proud of some of the things I have done, but I'm definitely proud of where I come from because it has put me where I am today. Again, like I said, there's a lot of things. You know, I think if I would have stayed secluded at LTA and didn't like go off I probably wouldn't have been in as much trouble.
Got it.
You know, because, you know, all of my family, and I consider all the people that I grew up with in LTA as my family, you know, it's just, I was an overachiever, an entrepreneur. Like I just went out and,
any connections with any of them still?
Absolutely.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Yeah, not on a daily basis and stuff. No. But I see them. I see any of my old peoples. Right. There's no love loss. Right. But I can also say that for and other gangs and cliques. Like, you know, like I have a really, really good friend that was from A Street, a female, right? And me and her, we don't talk or we don't, hang out, but like she'll always be my folks, you know,
Got it.
because we have shared some life experience together.
Yeah.
You know, and then my best friend, my best friend from Lower Tennyson Apartments, she lives in another state, and that's still family, you know.
Yeah. That's crazy how time changes everything.
Right, and it's a trip because, you know, I've heard reoccurring where a lot of females that grow up, they're just like, I don't like females, I don't trust them. Like, my bestest of best were females, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you know, my friend that I grew up with in LTA, there's actually two. I haven't seen one of them in a long time, but when we seen each other probably a couple years ago, we embraced like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know?
It's crazy because growing up for me and my brother, I have an older brother. Growing up, my dad used to always tell us, hey man, these guys you're hanging out with, they're going to end up in prison or they're going to end up dead. And you guys hanging out with them, you're going to end up the same way. And it always stuck in my head. We still hung out with them, of course, you know, because we're kids. But with that stuck in my head to not like get involved with some of the other stuff that they were doing. So we'd move the other way and, you know, kind of like stay away from the other things that they were doing that we knew that they were doing.
Yeah.
And they all ended up dead or in prison.
Yeah.
Every single one of them, he was right. So it's just crazy how that, you know, that happened. I see the ones that actually went to prison, changed their life completely. They're doing amazing right now. So I love seeing it, and you know, it's a great thing. But they did have to struggle first before they got to where they're at right now, you know.
That would probably be where I fall in, right? Like, because I was one of those that your dad said to stay away from.
Got it.
You know, I was really rough. I was rough and tough. And yeah, like I did a dramatic change, you know.
Yeah.
God stepped in and was like, no, homegirl, this is not what I created you for. This is not, you know, and it's a trip because back then I was, like I said, I was fearless. I was wired that way.
Yeah.
No fear. I don't care, you know, whether it be drugs and fighting, any of that. And, you know, what I learned is that all that ambition and that determination, that drive could be utilized for the greater good.
Yeah.
But I drove it to the ground, like the other direction. You know, a lot of pride and ego there, right? I'm bad. It's like, you know, that, for my perception, right? My perception was off. So anyways, where were we?
No, you're good. I understand exactly what you're saying. You gotta, you know, you want to drive it till the wheels fall off, and then you gotta rebuild and bring it back. So, that's kind of the story that I want to hear about. Where did your addiction take control? Tell us about that.
So I would say after I had my oldest son, I got really heavy in addiction, and then I decided I wanted to stop. And then I would get clean. I got sober for a couple years. And then.
So you were using before you got pregnant and during pregnancy?
No, you know, interesting. I did not. I think I got high once when I was pregnant with my son.
Okay.
And then I found out I was, again, like, I don't think, you know, I wasn't a slave to meth yet.
You got it.
You know, I got pregnant at 15.
Wow. Okay.
So I was not like a bona fide slave to meth yet. So it was easy for me to stop. Or I, you know, had him, but my son's father started to heavily sell, or whatnot.
Okay.
And I started using heavily, and we ended up breaking up or separating.
So how was that relationship between you two? Was it a normal relationship? You guys were just using and selling?
We were kids.
Okay.
We were kids.
No, nothing abusive, nothing like that. As young,
I think he
young
put
age.
hands on me, or I put hands on him. Like I was
You
violent.
fought back.
Yeah, I fought back.
Got it.
So,
okay.
But nothing. Nothing that I can be like, oh yeah, I almost
Got it.
And so we had broke up, and then I would say I started to hang out.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably when I stopped kind of like hanging out where I grew up and started meeting people that did meth too, whether they were from A Street, DJ, it didn't matter. Like, oh, you got some shit? It didn't matter at that point, you know? And associated with my using, I commit crimes. You know.
Yeah.
And so I started going to Santa Rita, I think in 2003 or 4. And I would meet other girls, home girls,
Yeah.
right? And so I would have more connections upon getting out,
Okay.
you know? Yeah. I'm trying to like, it's not a blur. It's just so much compressed into all that, you know, in my addiction. It was like I live to use and used to live, you know? And then I'd get in trouble, go to jail, plump up, get some weight, get healthy, get out, you know, violation, catch a new case, back to Santa Rita. In that process, I'm meeting more people, more connections, more this, more that.
And nothing at that time was like, oh, I'm tired of going in and out, in and out. It was more like, oh, I'm
I
meeting
think
more
I was
people
like 21, 22. So I was like just getting started.
now. Yeah. Okay.
You
So,
know?
will you say, is that when your true addiction started in that age?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay.
Yep. It
So
was
when
in
did
and out, in and out, in and out.
what were you first arrested for?
The first time I was ever arrested, I can't remember. Okay, let me think. Grand Theft Auto, maybe.
Okay.
In fact, you know, I think I was convicted of Grand Theft Auto 3 times.
Okay.
3 different times.
Got it.
I've been convicted of attempted carjacking. I was convicted. I'm trying to go in chronological order of my convictions and
Armed or just strong arm
what?
for the 215 or for the carjacking?
Strong arm.
Strong arm. Okay.
Yeah. I had, I think, 3 Grand Theft Autos, and it was like violation with a new case, like with the new felony conviction, right? It was like,
Yeah.
there was 3 of those. There was an attempted carjacking. And then after the attempted carjacking, I was convicted of a GBI.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, assault and battery with a GBI strike.
Okay.
I got a strike for that one. An embezzlement case. I got convicted of embezzlement, and then I got convicted of sales.
Okay.
I think those. And then I think in all that was 3 prison commitments, and then 7 felony convictions. And that was in the span between 2003. My last conviction was 2014.
Okay. And all this time, you're still in your addiction, right? Nothing ever stops. What about when
I
you...
got sober. Okay, so when I went to prison for my embezzlement case, got out, relapsed. They were going to bring me on a violation, and this was in 2010, and that was the first time that I conceded to possibly going to a program.
Okay.
Because prior to all that, it was like, I ain't no dope fiend. You know, I don't...
Yeah.
Whatever was going through my mind, right, was all wrong. And I just would not bow out. To me, it was like, I'm not bowing out to go to no program. You know, max me out. I'm going to do all my time. And so 2010 was, you know, you're either going to go back or we're going to put you in a program. And I was like, you know, I think that was probably the first time where I felt a little tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in 2010, my son's already 10. So I was in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, you know, like just, to me, I was living my best life, and it was no life to be lived there.
So what was the relationship like with you and your son at that time through those 10 years?
Through those 10 years, when I was there, but it was
Yeah.
very short-lived.
Got it.
Thank goodness that I had my son's grandfather, which is his dad's dad, and my parents. Whenever my son's never been in the CPS system, never anything of such. Immediately, and his father was in and out of prison, and he actually did like an 8-year one stretch.
Oh,
So he
okay.
was like never really present. But his dad's father, which my son probably considers his father,
Yeah.
was always there. And my parents were always there. And I want to say that's where I really discovered some forgiveness for my parents, because as much as I yearned that they would be there for me or love on me or, any of that, I never received that, but they definitely gave it to my son.
Yeah.
I've had my personal conversations with God, and, God was like, God put it on my spirit, like, you need to forgive your parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where I found some forgiveness with my parents, is that as much as I wanted and yearned for their love and them to be there for me or show up for me, they were able to do that for my son,
Yeah, nice. So I know you were in and out, jail, prison, everything, and I definitely want to talk about that. What was the point where you said, okay, I'm doing this now, or this is going on right now. I'm addicted. This is a problem now, that you felt that your addiction became an issue. Because I know you said, I'm not a dope fiend. I'm not this. I'm not that. It was kind of like that stigma where you were trying to stay away from, and you were telling yourself something different.
There was an arrest one time. Well, not a conviction, but I was arrested one time with a friend, a really good friend of mine. She was into boosting clothes.
Okay.
So another girl, and some guys she was seeing went to San Mateo, the mall in San Mateo.
Mm-hmm.
And they went and boosted. And I'm talking, she boosted. It wasn't like, I'm going to steal a couple shirts. Like, they went in there with lined bags with aluminum and, like, grabbed $1,000 worth of jeans and dumped and then took off, right? That was, like, her hustle.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to go with them.
Okay.
And I was I was at my grandma's house. They came to Fremont, swooped me up. My mom called, like, you need to come back because something was going on with Enrique. Enrique's my son, my oldest, my 24-year-old.
Okay.
You need to come back. And I'm like, I told them, and we hadn't even left Fremont yet. And I was like, turn around, drop me back off. My mom's tripping. Well, they ended up going to San Mateo, pulling their lick. And I guess security had stopped them. And her dude that she was seeing pulled a pistol out.
Yep.
Right? Pulled a pistol out on the security guard. They wrap up, whatever the case. Well, in that process, I guess they got the plates. They got her homegirl's plates, and they got a hold of my good friend's homegirl. Flipped her, had her set them up for the next week because they were supposed to hit some more licks the next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they picked me up.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you didn't go?
No, I went. This was the second time. No. I wasn't there the first day. There was the next week, and my homegirl, or my good friend, she was like at a hotel in Union City at the Motel 6. Anyway, she picked me up. We're like, we're going to go hit another lick.
Got it. Okay.
And I was like, all right, cool. I'm down. My mom will watch Enrique this weekend. I'm in. And, we had went to Michael's, like there in Union City. And I remember, now this is significant because I remember there was this gentleman in a suit, like looking at samples of something. And he was like, looking at me, and I didn't really trip. Right?
Yeah.
Whatever. Right? And so we go to the room, we get in the car, we're going to go take off to San Leandro to cop. I think my girl, she used to snort heroin, right?
Okay.
And her friend snorted coke. Anyways, we're going to Oakland so that they can get their stuff. And then we get pulled over, and there's like 9 cops, unmarked cars, and they have us out on the 880 right before Davis exit.
They're ready.
Like, it was a plot.
Yeah.
I'm not knowing, because I wasn't there last weekend.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what happened. And so they swoop us. There's San Mateo. There's a San Mateo. There's Hayward Detectives. Like, it's cracking, and I'm like, what the? And they pull us all out, and I'm kind of clueless as to what's happening.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just know we're getting jacked right now, and they arrest all of us, and so I'm in holding. I guess the whole point of so one of the detectives that pulls me out, they immediately see me, and it's the guy that I fucking seen at Michael's. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so they were already watching us. That was real significant because I remember there was this dude in a suit, and he was like looking at samples of something, like curtains or something.
But you peeped that he was looking at you the whole time.
Yeah, and I was just like,
yeah.
I was just like, what the fuck? And then when I seen him, when they arrested us and he pulled us all out, I was like, oh, fuck. Okay, so we've been being watched, you know. Anyways, I go in. We all get arrested. We go to, I think we went to San Leandro, San Leandro jail, or maybe the sheriff's department in I don't know. But, no, we get sent to Fremont. That's right, because we all got transported to Fremont jail because on top of the San Mateo thing that had occurred, I guess, the guy that my friend was seeing, he had shot at some people in Fremont too later that night when they came back from San Mateo. So there was multiple cases that had occurred through all that. And they had got to that girl that my friend was with, and she had flipped, and she was the setup, right, to get us all. I just was collateral damage because I came.
Is this a girl you knew, or was it just an acquaintance of the people that you knew?
What you mean?
The girl that set you guys up.
She was my homegirl's friend.
Okay.
She was one of my best friends.
So what happened with her after all this?
I think she got 2 years. My friend got 7. The dude got 9. Or something like that. No, I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Like I was. So anyways, I remember I was in jail for a couple days. They never came and talked to me, interviewed me, or tried to interrogate me about what happened. But I was like, anyways, the reason why I bring all that up is because I remember hurting. Like, fuck, I need to get high. So you had asked, when did I know? Because that was probably the first encounter where I was like fully addicted and hadn't needed to stop yet.
So you're going through all this, and the only thing you can think about is, I need to get high.
I need to get the fuck out.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm tired. I'm hungry. Or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, because that kind of is associated with coming down off meth, right? You're tired, you're hungry, irritable.
Yeah.
And an emotional roller coaster. Because then I'm thinking about my son. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me what this roller coaster looks like then. As soon as you know that this is a problem, how does the addiction start to elevate and change?
I definitely want, like I guess it's a mental, I think about all the regrets, all the things that heinous things that I've done, right? That, I only have to answer to God too about.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's a lot of remorse, a lot of remorse and grief and shame and guilt behind a lot of the things that I've done. And then as far as physical, like I want to rip my skin off, Yeah. So, and that was the first time that I had encountered like having a mental detox or mental withdrawal and a physical withdrawal.
Okay.
I mean, it's nothing close to probably alcohol, benzodiazepines, or opioids, right? Not the physical part, but like I had a mental, it's a spiritual warfare for me.
Yeah.
That's more paralyzing and detrimental.
And
the physical part.
Your addiction stayed with methamphetamine?
Yes.
Okay. And
I went from, I tried it smoking, but I was really a snorter, and then I used to eat it, and then I used to shoot it. And that's the last 7 or 8 years I shot it. Like that was the only way I was going to do it, or I wasn't doing it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And how long did it take for it to transition to that?
Well, first time I used, I was 12. And I think I started shooting meth when I was 26. 26. Up until I was 34.
Can you explain the effects that are the different effects from each way that you used it a little bit?
So smoking it was like an instant, whoa, that was when I was 12 or 13.
That
so I think anyway I would have done it at that age would have been crazy.
Yeah.
But smoking it wasn't my forte. Then I would snort it. The snorting it, to me, it like burned, climbed up my face. And like the burning sensation kind of like climbs up your face and like, and then within 2 or 3 minutes, your heart goes,
Yeah.
Eating it. The best way I can describe eating it is like you can wake up out of a coma, like sleeping for many hours, rock up, take it, swallow it, and you can get 20 more minutes of sleep in before you wake up with
Got it. Okay.
And then shooting it is like instantaneously. But like when I shot it, intravenously. It like puts me down for like 5 minutes. Like it's like almost like a knot out for like 5 minutes, and then I'm you know.
Yeah. Oh. And then once you started shooting it, that was it. You were only using it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a reason for that? Did you feel like you weren't getting the same type of high any other way, or just faster, or?
I mean, I made up all kinds of reasons why, right? Like in my mind, it was like I get to filter all the crap out of the cotton and get pure crap.
Yeah.
Now looking back, that was like my reason. Like I'm filtering all the crap out of it, and I'm getting pure meth. But really, it's just pure crap.
And what was
more toxins, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. I always ask this question, like, what was the safety precautions and stuff that you used at that time, using needles?
I'll tell you what, when I got clean and sober, when I was 34, know that I did a full scan because I didn't know if I had hepatitis. I've used dirty needles.
Okay.
Because
shared them?
Sure, yeah. Like I wouldn't say yes. In the grand scheme, it's sharing because I'm using it after someone else has. But as far as like let's go back and forth, no. It was like I needed to shoot, and the only I need that, and they're like I used it, and I just try to clean it out. And
how did you try to clean it?
With water.
Water, yeah. Wow. Yep. Yeah. But it made you feel better. I mean, doing something right before you're gonna, did it even matter at that time?
Yeah, it did. It was like, and there was like blood caked on it and stuff because they, had a bad experience, and yeah. Anyways, it was just so when I got clean and sober, I definitely went and got checked for hepatitis C, AIDS, HIV, all that stuff because I was reckless.
Yeah,
any of us we're reckless in our addiction, right? Yeah. And my reckless came from using,
So was it arm?
Huh?
What, were you shooting only in the arms, hands, legs?
My ankles, my arms, the back of my thigh, wherever I can find a healthy rope, if you will. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you did mention you did several different times in jail and prison and everything. Can you describe a little bit or talk to us a little bit about the first time you went to prison? You actually made it into prison. What was that like?
In not Salinas Valley. What is it called? VSPW, Valley State Prison.
Got it. Okay.
See, I'm all Salinas. Wait, that's a male. Wasn't there. Except maybe for visiting. No. Yeah. VSPW.
Okay.
I remember going and just having a mask, I guess. Really super serio. Didn't talk. And I learned that early on, spending X amount of time in Santa Rita is, you shut up and you listen and you pay attention before you engage. So I just didn't say much, and it was long. It was a long day.
Yeah.
The prison bus.
What was the intake like when you first get there? What do they do with you?
It's like herding cattle. I get in there. They throw you all in this room, and then you're waiting to get stripped out in the mirror to be, looked under. And, right. And you're thrown in, and and here's the other thing that I learned is, at that time I was like really heavy, like, associated with Northerners, right? I wouldn't say I'm yes, I guess you can classify me as a Northerner, but I'm a female. Women don't function. We don't have militant codes and stuff when we go to prison because it's a prison rooted affiliation, right?
Yeah.
And in my mind, I thought, they also categorized that in prison because I hadn't been to prison yet. Mm-hmm. And then I get thrown into this thing, and there's Southerners, and there's like all these. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I had always painted this picture that I'm going to be housed with nothing but Northerners.
Yeah.
And I had never been around a Southerner without like there being beef or fighting flat out fighting. And I'm like, and there's bulldogs and there's, and you're just all together. And I see Northerners chopping it up with Southerners or dating like their boyfriend or their girlfriend and girlfriend. Yeah. I started learning that in prison where I was like, and so it was really hard for me to adjust because I was like, there's no effing way.
So did anybody take you in when you got in there? Like,
so the first time that I went to prison, so the first time that I got a prison term was in Santa Rita, but I was what they call a paper commit. So they gave me 2 years, but they count all your time on that violation from that first case. And okay. I had enough credit to parole from Santa Rita. Right.
Got it. Okay.
But I still had to go see my parole officer and all this other stuff. And then I eventually discharged that number. And then and then I moved to Jackson, California.
Okay.
To get my life together.
Yeah. Calaveras County, right?
No, it's Amador County.
Amador. Oh, Amador.
But
okay.
Calaveras is hop, skip, and a jump.
Got it.
So I ran and stomped around Calaveras, Tuolumne, and Amador County. Yeah. And so I discharged after leaving. And anyways, I caught a new case while I was in Amador County. So I got picked up by a Sacramento County a CDC prison bus. Wait, Amador County had to transport me to Sac County because Amador County was such a small little, I think it was just me and some chick out of that county jail going to prison.
Yeah.
And so I got to prison. Did anyone, okay, so you asked me, did anyone take me in? So when I got there, I see all my homegirls that are from Alameda County, from Oakland, Fremont, Hayward, and so okay. Immediately I click up, with the people that I know.
Yeah.
Plus I had a couple of homegirls that were from Hayward and Oakland that were either long-termers or doing semi-life sentences. So I knew quite a few people already there when I got there.
How long did you stay in that prison? How long did you have to do?
I think I was there 14 months.
14 months. In that 14 months, was it violent?
Violent?
Fighting. A lot of fighting.
I didn't fight
like that?
when I was in the penitentiary.
Wow.
That was the only time that I didn't fight. But then again, it's like I'm in a different world, right? And so I paid more close attention. And again, the thing is, I can guarantee the reason why I did not fight is because I didn't fucking hang around with anybody except with the people that I knew.
Okay.
Because I couldn't be, there's people that are, life without parole. There was just lack of trust.
Yeah.
But I fought when I was in county all the time. You can't really steer away from people in a county jail. But in prison, there's multiple yards and stuff. But immediately I clicked up immediately with, and I don't, some of them already knew I was there when I was on the receiving side.
Yeah.
There was quite a few people there on because when I came over, 3 of my homegirls from Oakland were like, Drea, I had shoes. I had, stuff to already wear.
So is that what they called you, Drea?
Drea.
No nicknames?
Killa Dre.
Killa Dre.
Yes.
Okay.
That formulated when I still lived in Hayward, probably LTA. It was like Killa Dre. Yeah. I don't even know how that came about. Because it wasn't like I wasn't known for killing people.
You fought all the time.
Yeah, but that part, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So when you're in prison, do you have access to drugs at all in there?
I guess if I wanted to, but
you weren't using in there though when you were in there.
I think I smoked pot once. And I think I took an E-pill once.
Okay.
But no.
But for the most part, for that 14 months, you were clean from...
Heck no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
But am I? I mean, I'm clean, but it's the same behaviors. Right? Because we get something in from, a bundle in from, and a gate worker brings us our stuff. Like now I'm willing and dealing and getting my commissary that way.
Okay.
Right. So I'm clean and sober. I'm not putting anything in my own body, but I'm definitely with the business of the behaviors.
Okay.
I'm still poisoning other people. So is that clean?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you do your 14 months, you get out, and is it right back?
That's when okay, so that time when I got out, I started seeing this guy in Amador County, started getting high, and they caught me on a violation. This is when I first get into recovery. So I've never been in recovery yet.
Okay.
Right. I get a violation and they're like, "Hey," or no, I had to go test and it was dirty. Or excuse me, the informed way to say it now is it was positive.
Positive.
For substances, not dirty. Yeah. Positive for substances. My parole officer had came to my house. He woke me up. I already had clean pee in the fridge. I pulled it out and I like try to warm it up before I opened the door. And he comes in and I'm like, and I pour it in the bathroom and then he grabs it and then he turns around and he goes, "Andrea, this is cold." And I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
And I think I was living with my aunt and uncle, right? I had family out in Amador County. They all worked at the casino. They were that was the whole purpose, is why I was going out there to get my life together.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Andrea," so he has me on a tight leash. Now he wants me to check in repetitively. And so I have to go the next month and I test positive again. And then they detain me. And they're like, "Look," that was the first time where I was like, "Yeah, I'm really tired." And I decided to go to, a program. I was willing to take a crack at this program.
Okay. Tell us about that. How did that work?
So they come and get me. I think I was in El Dorado County Jail in Placerville. Because in Amador County, it's so small. Your parole officer is in El Dorado County. Yeah. They don't have parole officers in Amador County, which is in Placerville. So I was at the Placerville County Jail. And I get out because the program picks me up. Now, Sacramento, it's this program called FRMSC, Female Residential Multi Service Center. I had to think about FRMSC. And while I was in prison, right, prior to that, because it was just a few months before I caught the violation.
Yeah.
While I was in prison, they did a huge cut on all CDC funding. Right? There was a lot of programs that were cut off, because there was a huge hit for funding for CDC, for education and treatment. Mm-hmm. And so when they picked me up from El Dorado County Jail, I went to FRMSC, and it was the last female residential program fully funded by CDC.
Oh, okay.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like there was not even any more in LA. This was like this was the one that survived the hit, the funding cut for CDCR. And it was in Sacramento, right around the corner from the state capitol.
Okay.
It housed like 27 women. There was a parole agent on site. No cell phones. You were transported here and there. They had a chef, a cook. It was like really top notch, and then you had to do increments. Like you start doing that. And there were so many classes you had to take: anger management, family relationships, work, employment, housing. Like there was all this stuff. And it's a year program. Now, if you fail that year, then you get your violation and you go back. Right.
Okay.
And I think when I was in jail, like I had hit my knees and cried out to something like, "Man, come on, I need something else.
Yeah.
I'm tired of being a F up. I'm tired of like giving my son broken promises and stuff." So I go there and I actually do very successful. Right. I did the whole year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I started college.
How old was your son at this time?
He was 10 or 11.
10 or 11. Okay.
Yeah. They transport me all the way to Hayward to visit my son, every few months. But I stayed connected with that guy I was dating.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know where that's going.
So I graduate the program. Okay. So let me break this story down. This is some dynamic stuff. This is some like God stepped in and say, "Hey, here I am." Mm-hmm. So I was like, I had been there 8 or 9 months, and it was time for me to look for work. And I had applied at several jobs. And one of the jobs that I applied at was Rayleigh's.
Okay.
And I was totally like, man, it was going to be my first real job, and there was also a huge conference seminar thing where all the wardens of all the prisons in California were going to be at. And it was like a conference about treatment and where it was like the first conference since they had eliminated so many programs for CDCR in their education.
Yeah.
And the director had asked me to speak at this seminar. And I was like, yeah, but she had asked me a couple months prior. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. Well, anyways, I come home and I have this like phone interview with Rayleigh's. And I'm like, I'm like waiting. And she's like, babe, you're coming. We got to go do the, you're going to the seminar. And I'm pissed. Yeah. Livid. Like, I cannot miss this interview with Rayleigh's. Let me back up a little bit. While I was in college taking a course, one of my professors had his father-in-law come in and speak. Mm-hmm. And he was an ex-convict. And he had speaked about this program that he participates in called Project Impact. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's incarcerated men putting away childish things. And it's this program where they take people, and he was a lifer, but he got paroled.
Okay.
And so he was like one of the co-founders of this program where ex-convicts, ex-parolees go into the youth authorities and they spread the word of, give guidance and motivation and basically like pure peer mentoring, right? Yeah. And he said, yeah, and we're in the works of developing a female one. I'm in school. This is a couple months prior to me having to talk and I'm sitting there and I'm like asking questions and I was like, wow, that would be hella cool, if I could go into these youth authorities and talk to young girls and be like, hey, stop now. Mind you, I'm like 27 at the time. Uh-huh. So I'm still young.
Yeah.
And so that that happened, right? The guy came in, spoke, gave me his card, and I was like, okay. Didn't think much of it, but this guy had came in and speak. So here I am a few months later, pissed that I have to go speak at this thing because I can't do the Rayleigh's interview over the phone. So we get there, and we're escorted. Me and this other gal are escorted by, it's the captain of the women's prisons. He's this captain guy. He's like a head honcho for CDCR women's prisons, right? He's escorting us because we're on parole and it's like prison grounds. I guess it's in Galt. It's like the boot camp where all the correctional officers go for their training and stuff, right? And so we go to this auditorium. There's hundreds of people in there. It becomes my time to talk, and then I talk about, that I'm from Hayward, California, and that I relocated to Amador County trying to change my life. Yeah. Didn't work out so well, and that what FRMSC has done. It's showed me a path. It showed me that I can be much better than who I was. It's helped me recreate who I am, find out who I am. And in that process, I have gotten and, created a relationship with my spiritual, with my God, and things look successful. Things are looking great. You know what I mean? Things that I thought were never possible are showing possibilities. There's an actual light at the tunnel. Yeah. And I just want to thank whoever's, responsible that you guys insisted on letting there still be a residential program for women coming out of prison. Because I don't know where the heck I'd be. Blah, 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 and then I talked about how I was, I'm in college, haven't been in school for X amount of years. And I've gotten to meet people, get resources, and I've been inspired to possibly going into the youth authorities or other prisons and being a mentor and mentoring younger women so that they don't make the same mistakes I did. And it was because of reflection of what I had heard in class. Yeah. A couple months prior. I say my spiel, then we're being escorted off the premises, and the captain stops me and he goes, Andrea, wait. I'm like, yeah. And he goes, this gentleman was in the audience and he wants you to call him. He'd like for you to come work for him. And I look and it's a card, but it's the CEO of Project Impact.
Wow.
So the CEO, so the guy that came in at school, right, that pitched that and inspired me to like, wow, that'd be cool,
Yeah.
right, worked for this gentleman that happened to be in the audience. I'm pissed because I missed Rayleigh's interview, and
Yeah.
here I am scoring a job to fly to Ventura Youth Authority every week on CDC's dollar.
Wow.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
this
amazing.
guy, his name was Chaplain Earl Smith. He is the chaplain of San Quentin's death row.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay.
he's the guy at large and in charge of that program. And it just, that's like when God started showing up, where I'm like, what the heck? Here I am mad that I can't get this, $9 an hour job at Rayleigh's. And I'm offered a job by the man that's in charge after me speaking on one of his workers that inspired me at a school that my professor happens to be his son-in-law.
Everything happens.
Do you
for a
get what I'm
reason.
saying?
Yeah.
Where I was just like, that's when I really learned the true meaning of everything that is meant to be will be perfectly woven.
Yeah, I
know?
agree.
Wow. And then I remember I got home, I called, and he was just like, hey, Andrea, I heard yours. And I said, I know your guy. He came to my school. And then when he goes, really? I said, yeah, your worker, I forgot his name, but, he came in and he shared at his son-in-law's class, and I was in that class, and that's what inspired, and he was like, great. So there was dozens of us that went to Stockton. The office was out of Stockton that went for interview.
Yeah.
And it was just, I was, blessed and highly favored because the chaplain pulled me aside and was like, babe, you don't have to interview. You already have the job, but I just want you to come. So basically I sat with them while they did the formalities of interviewing because, he's a pastor, he's a chaplain. He was like, oh, God put you here. There's no way you could have planned to be in that class at that moment, be inspired by what my guy said, and then me see you
100%.
at a CDC seminar that you're not allowed in. That's why you were escorted in.
Yeah.
So I did well at FRMSC, right? Was flying, doing my thing, was working for them. And this was like when $9 an hour was minimum wage, and that job was $25 an hour. Do you get what I'm saying? Where I was just like, what is happening, God?
Yeah.
You like my shirt, you left the 99 to rescue me. You know what I mean? And so that went well for about a year, and but I stayed involved with somebody that was still using. I graduated the program and eventually stopped being connected, and thought I could do it all on my own. I think I know better, right? I don't. So I did that was in 2012 when I relapsed.
So how long were you clean during that time that you were teaching
Just
and
about 2
speaking?
years.
2 years.
Out, clean.
Wow.
And the reason why I had went to prison that time, it was, an embezzlement case. Like I said, I was a habitual offender.
Where or when did you relapse? Do you remember that?
I do. The guy I was seeing, he was obviously using and selling dope. Things that were unacceptable became acceptable, right? Like as long as I'm not using, Plus the money's good. I was coming from his mom's house in Valley Springs, which is Calaveras County.
Yeah.
And we were going through the McCallamy Hill windy road that brings you into Amador County.
Very familiar. Yeah.
So we were leaving Valley Springs, coming through McCallamy Hill, and then we were hitting that windy road that separates the two. And I told dude, I said, man, pull over. I'm gonna snort a line.
Wow.
I can't remember what date, but I remember that was the day.
Do you remember why you did that? What
I had
made
already
you
been
make
thinking
that
about it.
Okay.
The reality is when you relapse mentally far before you actually put in.
Explain that a little bit, because I think that's important for people to hear.
Right. So, again, I was clean and sober, going to meetings. I was well connected.
You were
with
doing great.
Support.
Yeah.
I have an awesome job on top of me working for Project Impact and flying out to it was Burbank, but we would drive to Ventura for every Thursday was the day that I went. I was also a full-time student at American River College.
Okay.
In Sacramento, and I was also working part-time at Subway. So I had a lot going on. And then my son is back with me, right? Got my
Yeah.
own apartment, and he's going to school. He's in baseball, so I'm going to all his baseball games. Things are going great. But then I stopped going to meetings. You know, I start lacking self-care, right? Because I'm like stretching myself where I'm like driving to Sac American River
Yeah.
every week for school, having to make sure I'm at the airport in Sac every Thursday. In between then, I'm like doing Subway to make right there in Ione. I don't know if you're familiar with Ione.
A little bit. Yeah.
Ione. It's by Comanche, but yeah, it's all in Amador County, and I'm like doing that. And then I stopped going to meetings. I stopped lacking self-care. What drug use or any of that was unacceptable when I first got out. But then my guy that I was seeing got an SSI settlement.
Okay.
So that was like 20 grand. I don't know. I just remember it was his money, and so he copped like a quarter pound, half pound. I don't know, pound. And I was just, I was so, things that were not acceptable became acceptable.
Okay. So far before you decided to
I was
do
already making things acceptable that shouldn't have been acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I probably didn't relapse till about 6 or 7 months after all that.
Wow.
Because I was, I was
Now,
in
when
there
you-
for a year sober. So within the next year, because I almost had 2 years before I relapsed.
Yeah.
I didn't have 2 years, but I was working on 2 years.
So during this time, this 6 months that you're starting to make these things that are not acceptable to you, are you imagining yourself using? Are you seeing that picture and then just saying, no, I can't do that?
I think I entertain it a little bit.
Okay.
But I'm so busy doing other things that it's not optional at this point.
Okay. Did anything click that day when you decided to pull over, say, hey, pull over? I mean, was there something that hit you that day that you can remember that said, hey?
I think I had already decided that I'm going to get high.
Okay.
One won't hurt or something. I can't really remember. It's a blur. So
did it right back to normal after that?
You know what? I had a massive headache. It gave me a massive headache. That's what I do remember because I took like hella Tylenol and I was trying to and then the rest is history. I don't know how to stop. That's.
So you went right back into your full addiction. Okay.
It wasn't very long until I was shooting up and I was using or I was selling drugs. Because my last thing that I got popped for, so I stayed out there for 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
So are you still trying to juggle these things while you're
all that got lost pretty quickly.
Yeah. Wow. What about like baseball, son, all that stuff? Did that relationship go back strained?
No, my son still stayed with me. But I want to say in 2000, at some point I got pulled over with my son, the guy that I was seeing, his son, and I think I had a substantial amount of meth in the car, substantial amount of marijuana. I think we even had some oxycodone pills, and we got pulled over.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were you on probation or parole at that time? Nothing? Mm-mm. Okay. But you got arrested.
Well, I had a loaded syringe in my I got arrested. I took the hit for that. Plus they confiscated my phone, and I had list of people that owed me money in my phone, which was extracted. I was arrested. I think my bail was it was a substantial amount, not 100 grand, maybe 90 grand. Guy that I was seeing, he bailed me out that night. And then I stayed out for a year fighting the case. In that process of me staying out fighting the case, my dad got really sick.
Okay.
And he passed away. Just a couple months before I had to turn myself in.
Were you able to be with him during the time that he passed, or were you?
I was.
You were? Okay.
I was. I mean, I wasn't by any stretch sober.
Yeah.
But I was there.
Yeah. How was that? I mean, clearly difficult.
That was very hard. My dad had a heart attack, a couple years prior, and got clean and sober because of the heart attack, right? He really tried. But he ended up relapsing. I think maybe when I went back to prison and I got out, he was getting high again. And I was like, what the fuck, And yeah, it was hard. It was hard. In fact, here's another thing, right? I had neglected to go see my dad because I was in complete denial that he's dying. I didn't understand what hospice was. I thought hospice meant coming home and getting better. I was so high doing my, fighting my case. I was working at a Jack in the Box to make money. I was just all over the place. And I remember going to sleep. Here's another, where I had, what is it called when you have a dream and it's real?
Yeah.
Premonition.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going to bed. It was about 4 or 5 days because I was in complete denial that my dad was dying up until 4 or 5 days before he died.
Wow.
And I remember going to sleep, and in my dream, I was holding my dad's hand, and it was ice cold, and he couldn't see me. And I was like, and in my dream, I'm like, oh my God, he's dying. He's dying. And I woke up. And I'm like, my dad's dying. My dad's dying. And the guy that I was seeing, he's like, he probably is like, yeah, And I called my mom. I said, where's my dad? And she's like, he's right here. I was like, I'm on my way. At that moment, I abandoned my apartment. I abandoned my job. Because in the dream, God, my spirit told me you need to go see him or you're going to be regretting this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have to put in perspective, 10 years from now, am I going to be upset that I left my job and my apartment and the guy that I'm seeing? Am I going to regret that 10 years from now because I went to be with my dad for his last days? Or am I going to regret not being there for my dad his last days?
Yeah.
And so I made a decision and I just gathered all my stuff. And again, at that time, my son's back with his grandfather because I'm fighting a case. I've already taken a deal to do 3 years.
Okay.
That I'm going to have to turn myself in. So I go to my dad's and I sit there with him for the last 4 days, and he died. And it's a trip because he died in the matter of which was in my dream, where his eyes became really, oxygen, all that his eyes almost looked like cataracts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And his hands were ice cold.
Like your dream.
Exactly to the T. That's
Wow.
why I know. God, and something motivated me. God motivated me. Get up.
Yeah.
Because I had that dream and I woke up and I called my mom Mom, where's Dad? And she's like, he's right here. But something in me was it's like I had a premonition. I seen exactly what it was going to look like and it was exactly the same way the dream, yeah.
So did you get to help Mom kind of take care of him a little bit while you were there for those days?
I was high. I was intoxicated the whole time. I remember the morning that he passed away, that what woke me up was that it was like the death rattle. I didn't know it was called a death rattle at that time, but it's a death rattle. That's what woke me up. And I remember looking, and he's like, and I'm like, I go outside, smoke a cigarette, go eat some cereal. I go in the bathroom to fix.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
I come out of the bathroom, and I'll tell you what, the first thing that I notice is I don't hear a rattle. Right? And I'm like, wom, 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 just got really high, and I tiptoe down the hallway because my dad was in the living room on a bed.
Yeah.
And I look, and he was gone. Wow. Yeah. And then that haunted me for quite some time. How, so I had to wake up my mom, tell her that Dad's dead. Something compelled me to go look at the time. It was 10:20 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
I was there in my addiction. I was there,
So you're there, but not.
But I was there more than I was not from being in Jackson.
Yeah.
Acting like this isn't happening. I was there the best way I could be there at that time.
Got it.
So he passed away, and I remember before he passed, I told my dad, because I had to turn myself in a couple months later, and he was just like, you fucking go in and you do your time. Because I was like, Dad, I'll run right now. Just give me the word, you know?
Yeah.
He's like, you fucking go and do your time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So mom's still alive?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how did she handle that? How did you guys deal with that after he passed?
Well, my dad was, what do you mean, like emotionally, financially?
Yeah, I would say both. Did you, after that, did you just go right back to where you came from, or did you stay with mom? Did you help? I mean,
I think I was like, I don't know. I can't even remember. It was a blur. Like I know that my aunt tried to put me into a grieving program. I think it was Salvation Army or something like, no, not Salvation Army. I can't remember. She tried to, because I was like having nightmares. I would wake up crying hysterically.
Okay.
You know, I kept getting high, but then I stopped because like, it didn't matter how much I was like, it wasn't working.
Yeah.
You know, and then I ended up getting high again. You know, it was just, I was all over the place up until I had to turn myself in April.
And that's
And
when
so
you did
I had
3?
to, they sentenced me to 3 years, but I did 15 months or a year and a half, I think.
Where was that at?
That was in Amador County Jail.
Okay.
Because the law had passed where if it's not a violent crime or whatever the case, that you have to do it in county. And now, like, you know, you could do so much time in county now on a prison term.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody else about that. You can do up to 5 years, right, in Santa Rita, I think.
That sucks.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so you go back.
And I have to process all that my dad's dead. But then I still have to have a mask on, right? Because I'm in jail. Yeah. So that's, yeah. So I did that time in there, left dude, or obviously I left him because I'm in jail. He's not. Yeah. And I did all my time in, at one point, because they had only houses 98 people or 101. I don't know. They house very little people, Amador County. But I know I got transferred to El Dorado County Jail, which is a huge jail. Not as big as Santa Rita, but it's pretty decent. Big, right?
Yeah.
They house parolees. They house federal pending cases in the area, you know. Yeah, and so I went to El Dorado County Jail for like 6 months during that because I was a long-termer, if you will, at Amador County, so they sent me out.
When you get out, you go back to it?
Oh, for sure.
Okay. So what happens there? What right back to shooting?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Immediately?
I think 2 weeks after I got out. So, yeah, I got out and just picked up right where within 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
I was picked up right where I left off.
So what I guess...
but now I'm in Fremont.
You're in Fremont. Okay.
Right? Because when I took the 3 years, there was like a couple of there was a couple of offers for the sales case, right? And it was like, you know, you do this X amount of time and we'll let you out in 9 months. And then you'll do, you know, I guess I'll have like county probation or county parole. Okay. I don't, you know, like when you're doing a prison term, it's like county parole now. Blah, 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 blah.
Was it like PRCS? Maybe.
Something. They wanted me to, all I know is at that time, it was like, max me out.
Got it.
So when I get out, if I decide that I want to continue to sell drugs or I wanted to do, you know, whatever the case, like I don't want to have to answer to anybody.
Yeah. You don't want to submit to a search. Fresh. You don't want to submit to anything.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I know myself, right? And so that was the deal, like max me out. But maxing you out is halftime.
Yeah.
So after doing whatever amount of time, doing whatever amount of time I got out, and I was able to just go straight to my grandma's house or back to Fremont.
Got it.
Where my parents lived.
Okay. So when you're
not my dad anymore because
when you're in prison, are you getting visitors?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your family's coming to see you. No. Okay.
No family, but like people. I mean, I had already been out in Amador County for like 8 or 9 years. I had created my own empire of people.
Got it.
And I don't mean like, I'm just saying like people that I have associated with that are, I guess created. I was always easy to get along with, but I was always respectful and nice. I wouldn't say I was friendly, but I was always nice. Like I
Yeah.
was easy for me to make friends. I'm easy to get along with, you know.
Okay. And at what point, I know you said, at what age did you start to your recovery?
I think I was 34.
34. Okay.
I turned 34 March 18th. My clean date is March 30th of 2017.
Okay. So 2 years after you doing that time, getting out, you were kind of running wild again for those 2 years.
And was it wild? I don't know. It wouldn't necessarily say too wild. I achieved a job after 5 weeks. I was out. I got a job at Safeway
Okay.
in Irvington, in Fremont. Yeah, it's interesting because Safeway is part of my story. I go in and I have someone pee, and because I know that they're going to test me, right?
Yeah.
I put the urine in my bra, keep it warm, and we go in, and I'm thinking, I got this, right? And they're like, we're going to mouth swab you.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, they mouth swabbed me, and I had just done like a shot of meth.
Yeah.
They mouth swabbed me, and it comes back negative.
What?
Wow. It's because in all my endeavors, God has a plan.
Holy shit.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
there's no other explanation other than God having a plan.
Yeah.
So I get the job, right? And so, yes, I'm very reckless at that point. I am stealing money from family members, my mom, my grandma, my Nino. I'm just doing the most. I'm selling drugs out of, Safeway. Or, lining up garbages with laundry detergent, taking it out in the back, loading up just doing all kinds of stuff. I got hella traffic coming in.
Yeah.
I'm late just about every day because I'm union. Safeway's kind of scared to fire people.
Yeah.
So I'm like late just about every day. And I'm working in the deli.
Are you stealing from Safeway?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What were you stealing?
Just anything that I needed.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was like, I didn't steal like money out of the cash for it. Maybe I did. A dub here or a dub there, or not charge somebody, or if they were paying with cash. I don't know what. I don't know. I was out of my mind, right? All I know is that I wasn't right. I was stealing from my family members more so, doing reckless stuff. Bad stuff, a lot of shame and guilt. And then right before I got sober, I was ostracized by my family, kicked out of my grandma's. Right, mind you, my grandma's house, everyone there used. Everyone there did drugs.
Yeah.
And like, that speaks a little bit of volume to be kicked out of a place like that. I wasn't welcome there because of all the reckless stuff, scantless stuff I was doing, That's like, I always think about like, that's me at a lowest of my low. People talk about when they're in their addiction, they're stealing from people or they're stealing from, different outside. I was stealing within the family unit. I was sick. And I remember reaching out to one of my uncles, who had been in recovery for quite some time. And I reached out to a really good friend of mine that was a director of a program in Hayward. And trip out too. The day before I got sober, I remember sitting on a street corner right somewhere in Cabrillo Park, not far from my grandma's. And I was like that 5-year-old girl again, like, why? Crying out again.
Yeah.
All over again. I was that 5-year-old girl. Crying out, why is this happening? Why is my family like this?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, and I've shared this before, when I cry out vulnerably, humbly, with my hands open. Someone once, matter of fact, my chaplain Earl Smith's wife used to always tell me that, you walk around, Dre, with your hands clenched. You're never going to receive any of God's blessings. You have to kind of open them up. That's the only way and I have, I'm really tense. I could be really tense and stuff, especially in our addiction or when we're doing things that we shouldn't be. We're kind of tensed up. And that night I remember thinking, you just start recollecting all the, things. For me, I got a lot of clarity.
Yeah.
I'm crying out to God like I was when I was 5, or like I was before I went into that program in SAC. I start thinking about all the people that, that can help. I'm resourceful too, right? In our addiction, you become so resourceful. That's like when things start to change, right? The amount of how much I could be resourceful in my addiction, like I could totally do that for my recovery,
Yeah.
And so I call my uncle, I call my girlfriend, and I'm like, I'm fucked up. I don't know what to do. They're like, call your job. And mind you, I have done a no-call, no-show at Safeway for like a week after being kicked out of my grandma's, and they're like, call Safeway, you're in the union. And I'm like, so I call. And it's a trip because I call and I talk to my manager. And, well, first of all, my homegirl, the one that's a director, she tells me, have you caught any new cases? I was like, no, because I had called her like 15 years prior while I was on the run, if I can go to her program.
Yeah.
She was like, babe, you can't come here on the run.
Yeah.
And I was just like, come on, So that door had shut on me so long ago.
Yeah.
And so she was like, did you catch a new case? And I'm like, no. She's like, call, so I call Safeway, talk to the manager. And I'm like, I'm fucked up. I need help. I've been abusing drugs. And my manager's like, yeah, I know. And so I was like, I need help. So they gave me this number to a union representative. I called the union rep. By that time, I'm at my aunt's house in Oakland, one of my aunt's house in Oakland, trying to sleep it off, right? Yeah. I hadn't used since March 30th. And it's like April 2nd. And I'm like hurting because I've already been in contact with my uncle and my homegirl who are in recovery. And I'm like, and I've already talked to Safeway, and they're like, we're going to have someone come out, what program do you want? And I'm like, I don't care. I just need I've already been kicked out of my grandma's house and nobody wants me. I was kind of in a state where like nobody fucking wants me. Right?
Yeah.
I'm so fucked up. My son is well off. He's graduated high school. Or no, he's on his way to graduate high school. He's at his grandparents'. Yeah, I was just tore up. And then, Safeway had, a program from Guerneville. So that's by Santa Rosa.
Mm-hmm.
Come pick me up at my aunt's house. And she lives on 105th at the dead end trailer park. Yeah. And here comes this classy little car like, beep, beep. And we're looking for an Andrea. And there's like people out there nodding out. Wow. But my aunt lives in the trenches. You know?
Of course.
She doesn't get high. But one of my aunts, she lives out in she lives in the trenches, and they're like, we're looking for an Andrea, and I'm like, I'm right here, And so that started my journey back to recovery. And, and I was already familiar with recovery. I knew that in recovery, I liked myself. I was somebody.
I was going to say, you have something to identify with already. So
and I know God works, right? Yeah. God moves, so me crying out that day, and then me calling the people that I felt I needed to call, and them giving me some type of direction and guidance, like call Safeway, it's like it never fails. Every time I turn my back away from God for a substantial amount of time because I am ashamed of what I'm doing, and I decide to become vulnerable and cry out, God always rolls out the red carpet.
Yeah.
And that's what happened, right? God rolled out the red carpet. I called Safeway. They arrange it. I end up at my aunt's house. See, this is crazy. So before I go to my aunt, when I call my aunt and my uncle, I get a ride to my homeboy's house in Vallejo because I figure I'm going to stay there and so I can get it together. The night I go there, I see my homeboy, and we're there at his house. The very next morning, his house gets raided because he's wanted for some stuff. And like here I am in Vallejo, and in his backyard you could see Six Flags.
Yeah.
And I remember being on the grass, handcuffed, and I'm looking like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Wow.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he goes up. Matter of fact, he just got out. I want to say a few months ago. He's been down this whole time. I'm 7 years clean, so he was down for about 7 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I was, fuck, right? And the reason why I haven't used then is because when they were pounding on the door, I gave him whatever I had on me to him, so he can tuck it and take it with him because.
Yeah.
I don't know what, so he'd have something to go in there with. But yeah, so, and then at that point, his family shows up. He has aunts and uncles that are, God-fearing peeps, right? And they show up and they're like, they got to clean up the house because, he's gone to jail. He's going to be gone for a while. Is there somewhere you need to go? And then they gave me a ride to my aunts in Oakland.
Got it. Okay.
And I want to say that was March 30th, the last day that I used. Or the last day that I used was the 29th because it was that morning. I didn't get an opportunity to use the next day because I gave all my shit to him because he was going away.
But you've had clean stints here and there. So you already kind of knew what to expect in it.
Yeah.
What this time made you say, that's it, I'm done. I'm not going back. There's no turning back now. Because you're still clean today from that day. I mean, it's been how long? How long have you been clean?
7 years. It was 7 years, March 30th.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank
that's
you.
Awesome.
What makes me...
Yeah, what made you decide, okay, that's it? Because you've been clean before. You've even had a 2-year, I think you mentioned earlier.
Almost, yeah.
I mean, what is it that says, okay, I'm not going back?
I owe it to myself. I owe it to myself. And just the relationship, the unwavering relationship I have with God, right? God has brought me through the fire so many times. He's left the 99 to save me. Mm-hmm. He's called me, right? He's anointed me to do some powerful stuff. I used to get a lot of pride, take a lot of pride in like me being this badass or because I can box or having this like I said, wired that way where I'm fearless, Yeah. And it's always been for a bad cause, or not the greatest. It's never been like to empower other people. It's been to destroy, people. And God He shows up. We have, God told me that it's time. That's the best answer I can come up with. God told me it's time. And He is the one father that I want to make proud.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's,
that's like where
everybody
I'm at.
needs something, right?
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Recollecting all the trials and errors that I've been through and the hopelessness that I have felt. Every time I'm delivered from any of that, it's by the hand of God. I recognize game in my face when I see it. That's, all in all, that's what it is. And then I have a lot going on. Not necessarily, again, I give all the glory and credit to God, bottom line.
And you never grew up religious, right? You said. No. I remember you mentioned that earlier. So what is your relationship now with God? Are you church?
We're solid.
Yeah.
I have not, there's been some personal circumstances that has not enabled me comfortably to go to church yet. I do watch church every Sunday online. So I'm a shopper, right? Mm-hmm. I'm shopping for a church. And there's been one that I have been watching for the last 3 months.
Okay.
Online. It's called Home Church in Lathrop. There's this gentleman, his name's Pastor Chris. He hasn't met me yet, but he will. because I'm gearing up to
Yeah.
go to that church. I've been, when I was in, so when I got out of the program and at Safeway, I went into Women on the Way.
Okay.
Okay. And it's a faith-based.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the leaders there were dynamic, right? She taught me about, she really embedded in me that, to live by unity, not by the spirit of division.
Mm-hmm.
And that, she, the manager at that time was everything that I wanted to be. She was strong, bold, fearless,
Yeah.
but she was on fire for God and she was on fire for recovery. And she was the epitome of everything I wanted to be like.
Wow.
Right. And I love and honored that about her.
I think it would be an honor for somebody to get you in there in the church, this Lathrop church. I think they're, sitting on something that, they're waiting to see, because you'd be great to be, sit up there in front and talk and tell your story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in the audience, I'm sure, that are dealing with this and not talking about it, or not expressing themselves, or, feel like they're stuck in their addiction. So I think you need to pull the trigger and just go.
Well, definitely in that. and I am, you're absolutely right. That's funny, because I was just running a group. So I'm also a substance use counselor.
Mm-hmm.
I am a site coordinator for a program. And last night I covered a group at 6 p.m. because we had a family night and all the counselors were tending to clients and stuff for the event. So I did a Zoom, and I was just telling a client last night, well, I need you to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And then here you are, like, you're right. And I have 2 little children. I have a 4-year-old, and I have a 2-year-old, and it's just been, and then, right now my partner, he is, working on himself. And so it's just been, and then my son, my 4-year-old is nonverbal.
Okay.
Right. And sometimes he's overstimulated by a lot of people.
Got it. Okay.
And so and then this weekend they're at their grandmother's house, right? My husband's parents. So,
Got it. Okay.
But I've been wanting to take one, see how it goes. But I not religiously, but I am committed to watching the home church.
Good.
In Lathrop every Sunday. For
something's
sure.
better than nothing.
The pastor on there is fire.
Yeah.
Really, really. But when I was at Women on the Way, we used to go to church in Fremont. And so that was like my home church. And then,
Yeah.
I got my own apartment, and then got an apartment with my partner. We had children. And so here I am. Yeah.
So if you had to talk to the people that are watching this, that are dealing with some of the things that you've dealt with in your past and stuck in their addiction, what would be those words of wisdom from somebody who already went through the fire and found their way out?
There is there's this look at him, you got me nervous. I'm like, there's the in the Bible, right? There's this, I think it's 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 8 and 9. Okay. And it talks about that we are hard pressed on every side. But not, can I read it?
Absolutely.
Can you hand me my phone?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is like something that I definitely. There's no, doesn't look like. Okay, let's see. It says, we are hard pressed on every side, yet not crushed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Struck down, but never destroyed.
Wow. You can always depend on the Bible, right? Literally.
Yeah.
It's crazy that you mention those kind of things, even like the Luke 15:4 on your shirt. That's a huge thing, right?
He's right. Talking about he left the 99 to rescue me.
Talking about the sheep, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's crazy that you mentioned that because I was watching something on, I don't know if it was YouTube or TV or what, but there was a lady that found herself being religious, never grew up religious, right? But she would open the book, the Bible, just randomly grab a page, open it up, and point to something and read that. And every single time she read it, it had to do with what she was going through in her life.
Yeah.
And it was just random. Like she didn't look through and say, I want to find something on, when you lose a family member, how do you cope with that? And
Right. Like she was called to do it.
Exactly.
At that
She
moment.
would just open the book, touch it, read it, and it just every time it fit exactly what she was dealing with. And so I think there is, I've said this many times before, divine intervention, right? I think there is a higher power up there. I believe in God, and I'm not super religious, but I grew up religious, right?
Well, and I'm not religious at all.
Yeah.
I just have a profound relationship with God.
Yeah.
It's about relationship. Religious to me, growing up, I was always associated with religion with, like, if you don't do it this way, shame on you. Mm-hmm. If you don't do it this way, religious is like staying within these
Yeah.
like you're bound, kind of like, like you're bound by that. To me, that's what religious is. Like, if you mess up, God's going to punish, or if you mess up, you're not a Christian, or, or that's what I identify religion with. So I'm not religious by any stretch,
Yeah.
but I definitely have a solid relationship with God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you have
we
to.
get each other.
I think we all have to.
When
have
no
that.
one else gets me, he gets me.
Yeah, and I think everybody needs to have that relationship at some point, right? You don't have to be very religious. You have to have some sort of faith in a higher power, and whatever that is that helps you guide yourself to a better place. I think it's important to have that
For
relationship,
sure.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Instead of everybody when they're in a natural disaster or something, that's when everybody wants to say, please God, help me,
This time.
Yeah, this time. So, Andrea, I really appreciate you coming out here today and telling your story. You've been through a lot, and there's a lot of people out there that surprisingly probably have a very similar story to yours,
Yeah.
More people than you can probably imagine. And I think it's important for those people that are sitting there and hopefully will see this and say, damn, my life was so similar to this, and they're still stuck in their addiction.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to make that, like we said earlier, pull the trigger. They don't know how to fix that problem and where they're going to go and you just have to do it. You just have to believe in yourself. One, believe in you, keep the faith of something,
Right.
and push forward. So,
when you initially asked if there's something that I want to share with someone
yeah,
about, and then I brought up the passage in the Bible. The other thing is that recovery, is for people that do it. There are millions of people that need it. There are millions of people that want it. Mm-hmm. Recovery isn't for people that want it or need it. They're for people that do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Like it's the pulling the trigger. I have a lot of friends in prison doing life sentences for something that they did as a kid under the influence.
Yeah.
They probably they need it. Right.
Yeah.
I know many people that I see on a day-to-day basis at my recovery outpatient center that want it, but it's for only people that actually do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I've never met anybody that was successful at recovering that somebody was forcing them to do it.
Right. I can't want it
Yeah,
for you.
correct.
I can't need it for you.
We all want it for our loved ones. We all want it, right?
It's for people that do it.
100%.
Yeah. So that would be my advice that yeah.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you very much again. And I really want to say I appreciate you coming out here and talking to us.
Thank you for
and hopefully
asking.
maybe we can have you back another time.